All right, welcome everyone to the Beauty Business Strategies Podcast. Again, Michael Yost, your host with you again this week. So, as we always do, this week we've got a great guest, and, we've got Andrew Caruso joining us. He's from Pure Brazilian. And I'm going to let Andrew introduce himself here in a second, but what I love about this podcast is we always try to bring things to you that make us either think a little differently, challenge us, or create awareness in areas within the beauty industry that maybe we could use like a little update on what's going on or what's happening in that world. And so Andrew Brazilian is going to do, I think, a number of things for us today, along with the fact too that if we're always looking for ways to continue to grow our business, this is, again, another great way to start to think about, are there opportunities I might not be aware of that I could take advantage of? But again, we could be faced with some hurdles and some past thinking. But with that being said, Andrew's going to do some really cool things with us today. We're going to have a great conversation and move forward. So, Andrew, before we get into anything more, why don't you give everyone a little bit, just an introduction of yourself and your role with Pure Brazilian.
Awesome, Michael. Thanks for having me on. I think it's a unique thing is what I bring to the table. So as a hairstylist by nature, I've been a hairstylist for over 20 years. And through this journey of this career, I have found opportunities to grow myself and grow others. And one of the things I'm really fortunate of is I've had a lot of great mentors over the years. So I've grown from a stylist, and then I worked for Caruso Beauty for over 18 years in a multifaceted channel between their stores division, their franchise division, their wholesale DSC division, and their leadership position. So all of that said, that gives me that unique approach where when I'm in with Pure Brazilian now, I get to apply a lot of different models to what makes a brand successful. So, but I still keep my stylist roots I still keep them at the core of everything I do. So I'm really happy to be here to share that with you, because I think it's what makes Pure Brazilian and what makes me unique is that I look at things from 5 different angles to make sure it's going to meet everyone's needs. And so we can all grow each other.
Yeah, love it. Love it. So let's kind of start with something that I think whenever you hear or start talking about Brazilian treatments, hair straightening, things like that, we immediately start thinking about, there's probably already a preconceived notion out there about what that is. Oh, that's heavy chemical, or that's this, or that's that, XYZ. But for those that might not be tuned in, there's been a tremendous amount of change, especially in certain states, within this last year, about what's allowed and what's not allowed, ingredient wise, things like that. Why don't you give us kind of let's just jump into kind of some of the science and the base of it first. What makes, again, especially with Pure Brazilian, there's definitely a difference there, but kind of catch us up on what's kind of happening big picture in that world, but also then what's unique about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of why when the owners, Joe and Saul, when they bought the brand, they saw this market and this category still coming to life. At the end of the day, salons are still offering treatments, and Brazilian blowouts, keratin treatments, it's been a legacy name, obviously, for over 20 years. And with all the changes, obviously, there's a lot of organizations and groups that are looking into certain chemicals, because there are chemicals that are good. There are both chemicals that are bad. But sometimes they get confused because the word formaldehyde, right? You could bake an apple pie in the oven and pull it out of the oven. It's going to have formaldehyde. You can do certain things, and certain vegetables will release certain chemical ingredients that we all can utilize. So I think since in the past 20 years, there's been, like you said, a really big stigma there where some stylists are saying, I don't want to touch Brazilians or keratin treatments because, quote unquote, they're not safe. But so much advanced technology has come by just in the past 5 years, past 15 years, where there are other ingredients that we can use that will get us the same results in a safer format. And we're proud to be one of those brands where right now the current ban is on formaldehyde. There are certain brands where that's their number one ingredient they go to as a default to achieve the service. But if you take a step back and you look at Brazilian treatments as a whole from Brazil, this is a process that's usually taking 5 to 6 months. But unfortunately, we live in the United States where we want a Big Mac, we want a large size, we want things done today with the instant gratification. So that is where the research people are using certain ingredients to achieve a 6 months result in 90 minutes. So one of our key ingredients is not formaldehyde. Unfortunately, our ingredients are labeled underneath the umbrella ban, which kind of sets us apart because it's like, okay, we know we're using safe models, we're using safe ingredients, we're using safe levels, but unfortunately, the stigma of the whole thing has got to this umbrella ban, we're calling it. So that's where we're really fortunate, where it looks into treatments where we're using ingredients that are less on the Richter scale than on most. So I'll teach your audience here something. Next time you're in a packaging situation where you're looking at ingredients of whatever it is, whether you want to eat it, drink it, smell it, spray it, whatever it is, looking on the back of that ingredient list, it dictates the potency levels. So when you're looking at a product and the first ingredient is formaldehyde, the first ingredient is some derivative of chemical, that's usually a good indicator that's the main ingredient. Where if you look at pure Brazilian, our main ingredient is number 17 on the list. That just goes to show you that we're using our superfoods primary. We're using our hydration, our humectants, our cocoa seed butter, our açaí, our hydrolyzed keratin, and then we use the ingredient to help us punch in the cuticle. But the big thing that separates us from other brands is, I'm sure, Michael, if I told you the word smoothing, what does your brain usually go to first?
Well, when the first thing I hear smoothing, I just think about hair texture. I think about cuticle. I think about, yeah, shine, things of that
Exactly.
nature when I hear smoothing.
Yeah. And sometimes when you hear the word smoothing, the consumer goes, I don't want straight hair. They think of keratin, they think of smoothing, they go, I don't want straight hair. And that is what's really unique about Pure Brazilian, is because with Pure Brazilian, we're taking that cuticle shaft, we're inputting hydrolyzed keratin, acai, cocoa seed butter, and what we're doing is we're shutting that cuticle down afterwards. So if someone has curly hair and wave and texture, we're going to keep that wave and texture. If someone wants to shine the volume, we're going to give them shine and volume. If they want to reduce their blow dry time, we're going to reduce their blow dry time. So what we're giving a consumer is living in the hair you have with healthier hair. Because everyone will always say, I don't want to lose my volume. Honey, you don't have volume. You've got frizz built up at your root level that's causing volume. We had a model just a couple weeks ago says, my hair's never felt like this. It feels so much lighter. And we look at them like, we didn't take shears to your head. We didn't use thinning shears. We didn't remove any texture. We're just showing you what your true texture looks like and feels like. Adding that smoothness, that shine, giving that cuticle what it needs, and letting the cuticle do what it wants to do. My wife has super, super curly hair. If I told her that I'm going to take your frizz away, but at the same time, I'm going to straighten your hair, she's out. So what she wants to do is she goes, I want my curls to bounce. I want that cuticle to be shut down. And I think that's what makes us different, because when I have that conversation going, we're a smoothing product, not a straightening product, I don't want someone to go, oh, straightening. Well, that means line demarcation. That means regrowth. And the only way to come
Right.
off a straight is perms and pixies.
Right. No, I think that alone is such a great thing to create awareness around that. Again, maybe, we don't think about it. And I know, again, just sitting here in this conversation, I'm like, wow, that wouldn't be something that where my brain went with that. But like I said, that differentiating between straightening and, like I said, smoothing, because again, talking about our wives' hair, my wife has very thick, not curly hair, but has a nice amount of natural curl and things to it. But she fights. And again, sometimes wants that texture, sometimes wants to blow it out a little bit, with, a bigger wave or things like that. But the point is always fighting that challenge of, the fuzz and
Mm-hmm.
the texture, the battle that the people, that have textured hair will fight. So.
Yeah, and we're offering texture management is really what we are at the end of the day. It's like we're allowing people with 3C curls all the way down to pin straight hair to live in the hair they want without jeopardizing what they love the most, their crown.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. So as we kind of progress the conversation forward a bit, as we're thinking about, if I'm a business owner and I'm sitting there and I'm saying, okay, you know what? Maybe I can get now. All right, you've helped me to understand kind of the chemical side of things, maybe some barriers that I've had to myself. But how am I going to really, how do I really share that with potential clients? Or how do I educate or share that even with like team members that might be performing service? I think this is pretty common, not just to your field, but to a lot of people might be out there going, I really think this is a great thing, but how do you overcome challenges? And so I'll leave it kind of more open-ended, not necessarily, I mean, some would obviously do with your, with what we're talking about here directly, but I think just in general is, you know, how do you help as you're working with businesses, help them to overcome hurdles and challenges that they may face from resistance to a new thought, a new idea, a new approach, things of that
Yeah.
nature?
It comes with open-ended questions, right? That's where it starts with. So we just did the premiere show last week. By the way, fantastic show. The premiere company really took it off the Richter scale there. And we were on the largest booths there. And this was I call it the hurdle center, right? They came to us to our booth and says, I've heard about you. I don't know about you. I use XYZ brand. Tell me what the differentiators are. And then we live in understanding, asking those questions. What don't you like about your current keratin service? What are you experiencing in your salon? What are your guests wanting to achieve and how long do they want to achieve it? What's the overall smell that comes out of your keratin treatment? Because really at the end of the day, your guest is there for an experience. And if your chemical service is giving them an experience that they're not appreciative, they're probably not going to be doing it in the future. So we just ask those questions of going, hey, what do you want to experience in your salon? Well, I want a really good smoothing treatment. I don't want to have to wear goggles. I don't want to have to say no ponytails, no downtime. And that's what differentiates us, because when we talk to clients going, there is no downtime with us. You can go in the pool, the beach, the gym, swim, do whatever you want to do that day. So that relieves the first hurdle, because there are some keratin companies, and I can't believe it, it's 2025. They say, do not put your hair in a ponytail for 3 days. Don't wash your hair for 4 days. And I just go, how could you tell someone not to allow them to live the way they want to live? So that's the first barrier. We let them know that their consumer, their end customer, is going to be able to do whatever they want day one. Then we go into the science and the aspect of, okay, the overall fragrance. We don't use any high potency perfumes. We don't use any extracts that are overpowering to the guests, because again, we want it to be an experience, but we also want it to be nice enough where they're like, I like the smell, but it's not overpowering, because we have a very sensitive driven community now. Think about it. Stylists, they smell and they see first before they do anything else. It's got to smell good. So we relieve those barriers of, I don't want to have my doors open in my salon and letting fumes out. You don't receive any fumes for us. We call it water vapor fumes, and then you have the chemical fumes. That's where we say, okay, you're not going to be able to do X, Y, Z, but with us, you can still be in the salon. We did 9 models in a meeting room one time, and there was no fumes in the room. That was what really stood us out. So when we're having those conversations of saying, no downtime, no fumes, no irritation to your staff, there's no health hazards, even though, again, that umbrella labels our ingredients into it, we're using the safest amount. We're one of the lowest actually in the market with the amounts that we use. So breaking those barriers and making the stylist feel comfortable in offering the service, that's the ground force first. Because if I'm not educating the stylist to be safe, they're not educating the consumer to be safe. And that's how we bridge that gap of safety, fragrance, performance, and just the overall aspect of they're going to feel the results and they're going to love it.
Right. I love that. That's awesome. Actually, as you were talking too, I came up with you guys need a t-shirt, no fume in the room. That's a good bumper sticker.
I'll reach out to marketing,
good
put it
t-shirt. Right. I mean, listen, that one's on me.
Okay. I appreciate the free
I'm sure they're going to run with that. I'm sure I'm going to see that all over your website.
It's that one, because it lives right next to our tagline. Our tagline is discover your hair's pure potential. Let's defy your frizz. So I can also say, plus no fumes in the room. And that's
no fume in the room. That's right.
You heard it here first.
For some odd reason, I think yours might be better than mine, but hey, I'll let the other people with a higher pay grade than myself in that area. We'll let them duke it out.
Let the marketing team fun with the words, because I'm telling you, I have my marketing team is like, okay, here's my message. Make this pretty is always what I put in my email. It's like, make my hardcore monotone man voice, make this acceptable stylist. And that's a hard thing, because it's just words, but those tricky words can make your brand.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It is tricky. So getting back on track, what do you, so when you work with businesses and things of that nature, what are you seeing impact wise on a business? And what I mean by that is, are you noticing hey, listen, maybe I'm listening into this podcast and I'm thinking to myself, I mean, here's what we're facing right now. I think in general, with the climate we're in, and I'll just kind of put a date on this so we kind of have it as a reference. So we're in the summer of 2025. And what I see in the climate, but this happens quite often, is we go through times where I notice a lot of businesses aren't necessarily attracting a lot more new faces in, and we see people now in the economic climate we're in even spacing out time, even spacing out appointments. So we're always looking for what could be an add-on or an additional service that we could offer to that existing client they might not have ever taken advantage of before.
Hmm.
And so I think even what we just were talking about earlier, this isn't something that is necessarily about straightening hair. This is about, creating that smoothing effect on hair and things like that. Here's something going to have a big appeal to a lot of people potentially. So from let's just say from a metric standpoint, what are you noticing or what are you seeing that people that are utilizing these services are seeing? Like maybe you got something around like, hey, we see this happening in productivity. We see this happening with average ticket. We see this happening with return visits or such forth and so on. What are some of the stats that you might be seeing
Yeah.
out there?
You just like literally just put the pure Brazilian blueprint is how do we keep these guys coming back? And so we'll go back to the metric standpoint first. That is kind of where I put the thought process into pure Brazilian. It's okay, how do I add more dollars to the single mom, single dad, the family owned salon? How do I add more dollars back to their income, right? Because at the end of the day, this money is paying for the bills, keeps the light on, puts food on the table. So we go in with the aspect of, let's say our top selling product, Express Blowout, is truly one of the only express services out there where it requires no additional time. So for a client to receive our express treatment, that is 4 to 8 shampoos of smooth hair. That's our like gateway, we call it, right? So when that product kind of shuts off, remember, we don't leave a line of demarcation, there's no regrowth. Our product will shut off. The consumer will go, how do I get this to last longer? And then we get them into our actual full service treatment, which is a 90-minute smoothing treatment that averages 3 to 4 months, smooth hair. So that's the way we kind of ticket build is saying, okay, maybe your customers don't have time for a treatment, but you're automatically be blow drying their hair after a color service. Let's lock that color in. Let's add that smooth. It's 4 pumps per section. Call it a day. We call it quad. You separate the hair into 4. Each fourth gets 4 sprays, brush, flat iron, blow dry. All the things you're going to do anyways with that client walking out the door. Why not add an extra 20% to 30% increase for your blowout? That's where we look for the express blowout because it's an easy ticket adder. It lets them get an example or a sample, as we call it, of the brand. And they go, you know what? I want this more. I want this to last longer. I didn't like the fact that it turned off right before the wedding, right after the wedding. So we're giving that way of kind of slowly gatewaying them into our treatments. And then if we really want to step back the way we get them to, let's say your wife doesn't want to do a treatment at all, but she still wants smooth hair. She still wants to have that frizz free. Our retail line has our hydrolyzed keratin in all of our products. So that's how we really step them in is, okay, you don't want the treatment, you don't have time, the book's busy, can't fit you in. Take home our anti-frizz shampoo, conditioner, or smoothing balm. You're going to feel our effects, and that's going to step them even further. So we kind of put a full approach of wherever the consumer wants to step in, we get them in, and then the stylist can find a ways of adding them on as a long-term client because you're exactly right. There's less visits, there's more price increases. So let's make sure we balance that out. The reason you have less visits, you've raised your prices since COVID. A lot of people have raised them beyond a limit of some style or some consumers' financial capabilities, right? We see a lot of franchise salons that came in at the value dollar model, and now they've raised their prices where they're back to full service salons. So we're seeing that shift on all sides. So it really comes into, are you giving your consumer a bang for their buck when they walk in to keep them walking in again?
Awesome. Awesome. So as we think about the impact of this product and we think about how it can really help be a segment to help grow our business in general, what's something as I sit here right now, I think to myself, I guess I'll ask you the question this way is, what's something that maybe I'm not thinking about right now, or maybe someone that's listening might not be thinking about right now around your product, Pure Brazilian, or things like that, that maybe they should be thinking about? What's the question I don't know to ask? Maybe is another way to phrase that. what's that thing that, again, you want people to realize or know that maybe isn't always first to mind, but it's like, oh my gosh, man, I never knew that. And thank you for, wow, thanks for the awareness, or thanks for so
The
what do you,
question, yeah, the question we get a lot is how do I make money? Right. That's the question. Okay, I'm buying this kit for $499. What's my ROI? And then we break it down where if you use between, let's just use our half ounce example, because it varies between quarter to a half ounce. If I'm showing you that a half an ounce of product can make you $350, that opens up their mind going, I've been sleeping on this category. Because so many people I'm a hair cutter, I'm a colorist, hair cutter, colorist. They forget there's so many different things you can add onto your service. Jonah Bates out of Nashville, she says this a lot. She'll be a guest of mine down the road, where she said this to me a long time ago. She goes, make sure your community knows you're servicing your community. And I asked the client back to them, are you servicing your community? And they go, what do you mean? I'm like, how many people know you offer treatments? How many people know you're the ombre specialist, the highlight specialist? Because every single day someone's driving by your salon not knowing what you offer. So we show them that if you advertise it, the famous Field of Dreams, you build it, they shall come. If you advertise that you're offering smooth hair, frizz free hair, texture management, and I'm showing you how to take a half an ounce and make $350, that opens their mind up going, I want to do these more. We have a salon up in Massachusetts. They do 11 keratin services a day.
wow,
A day. Now imagine that. They're using our product, no fumes in the air, $350. I'm showing that salon how to make damn near $4,000 a day, where if they took 11 haircuts, what is that really going to generate?
right.
Maybe a couple $100. So that question they always ask is, I'm giving you 500. How do I make the money? And we walk them through all those ways of adding service dollars, texture management service dollars, adding it to their menu, and making sure that they're speaking that on their social platforms. Because let's face it, you and I, before we do a single thing, we go to Yelp, we go to Google, we go to Amazon, we check the reviews first. It could be the best commercial you see on TV, but I'm still going to check those reviews first to make sure it's legit and it's not just hyped up. So those are the questions: is how do I make money, and where can I start?
Right. Awesome. That's great. I mean, and it's really great to, like I said, understand the perspective of, again, we're talking about, like I said, you gave a perfect example about, hey, listen, for a half an ounce of product, what that can turn into, and what that can mean as far as, again, revenue generation and the ability to grow that, top line that hopefully leads to growing the bottom line as well. So I love that. Love that. Love that. Now, because I didn't ask this, and it seems like such a simple question, but I don't want to be remiss. Is there, when it comes to the length of, like, how long does it take to perform the service? Because I don't know if there's something, like I said, with yours, again, everyone's kind of got different time standards, or that, and I understand. Let's put it this way: I'm not talking about, I understand every business can have unique time standards for what they want, but in general, there's a generalized, hey, listen, to do this the right way, it takes X amount of time. What's the recommendation that when it comes to performing your service, what's that look like?
90 minutes. That's
Perfect.
the best part. But when you look at a lot of keratin treatments, some can average 2, 3, 4 hours. You tell a customer they're going to sit in that chair for 4 hours and not offer them a bottle of water. So what we really go through is it's 90 minutes for our original, and then our clear, our formaldehyde free version. That is going to be anywhere between the 90 minutes, and then you tack on 20 to 30 minutes for processing time. Because again, remember, the clear doesn't have any chemical base in it, so there's no punch. So you have to let the hair absorb the hydrolyzed keratin a little bit differently. But 90 minutes is our standard. We have some educators, again, like you said it, how fast they can be is how fast this can get done. If you're a
Right.
quick blow dryer, if you're a quick flat ironer, we can cut that down to 60 minutes. So we have some of our educators that can get these treatments done in about 60 to 75 minutes, but 90 minutes is the average we talk about. So again, I'm showing you how to make $350 in 90 minutes. That's doctor lawyer pay grade style.
Yes. But you're taking the words right out of my mouth, because you're exactly right. I think we're used to, in this segment of this industry, we're used to something that's like, okay, you're going to tell me it's going to be 2.5, 3 hours, even, possibly even longer. But all that does is it keeps driving price up, which keeps people more away from it. Because now you're forced to have to start to say, well, I have to put 500, 600, $700 price tags on those things, all of which become more barriers. Now, as you just said, got 90 minutes, 350, boom, your time. I mean, what's people's time worth nowadays? And
Exactly.
more than ever, time is our most precious commodity. Amongst when you talk to people, and so again, being able to have something like this and generate a revenue point like this that still is, I still would absolutely say friendly to the consumer, but at the same time is friendly to the business when it comes to time spent. That's a really good ratio.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
people ask us that question of like, how much do I charge? You just nailed the you hit the nail right on the head. What do you feel you're worth for 90 minutes? Are you an seasoned stylist who spent 20 years of advanced education? Charge more. Are you a newer stylist who's trying to build their book of business? And you gotta, we all know this. If you're a young stylist, you've got to take a little bit of a price decrease versus everyone else in your salon because you got to build your way up there. And I say, whatever you're worth for 90 minutes, that's what you should charge. Because we have people in LA, these are $600 services. We have people in North Carolina, it's 250. I have people in Nashville, it's 500. It's going to
yeah.
vary upon your demographic, but I would say, what are you worth for 90 minutes? And that's really where the answer should be.
Yeah. And, I'm going to just kind of tack onto that because, for those listening, especially that are, strategies, heavily strategies involved, they know that, we talk about what, the cost per hour and determining what that cost is based upon the cost of your business. But as you're just saying, Andrew, it supports that from the standpoint of, hey, listen, if I know what my time needs to, what I need to charge for my time to cover the expenses of my business, I can add on a premium if I feel I want to add on a premium. If I feel like my time, as you just were saying, if I feel like my time is worth, and I love you gave different examples. Hey, in LA, the premium is this. In this area, we want to put this premium. That's up to you. But no matter how you slice it, 90 minutes of time is going to be much friendlier to your bottom line because you don't need as much time. Therefore, it keeps your costs in a more reasonable way to, charge the right price. So, I mean, no matter how you want to look at it, that's a huge point of difference that I think makes a major impact on the health of a company. So this has been
Exactly.
awesome. This has been
Yeah.
awesome. I tell you what, man, again, time, as I say, I think at the end of every conversation just seems like it flies right by as this did. So as we're wrapping things up here, let me just ask you really quickly to just share if people want to know if they're like, man, how do I find out more about Pure Brazilian? Give me some places and we'll make sure these are linked, in the description and in here so you can find them there. But what's the best way to find you?
So if you're going to go on Instagram, that's where we live primarily. So you're going to just find us at Pure Brazilian. You'll find us right on there. You'll see all our before and after pictures. You'll see all of our how to dos. You go to purebrazilianhair.com. That's going to be our website. And then if you just want to look up all of our team members are listed on our website, and we do a monthly newsletter. So if you want to receive the latest up-to-date news from Pure Brazilian, go to our website, click on the professional, create yourself a login, and then every month we release a article called our monthly newsletter, our Smooth Success, and we highlight educators, tips and tricks for the salon. And then even in October, we did the spooky ways of keratin just to kind of go over, the things that don't happen.
Nice. Love it. Andrew, man, thank you so much for sharing and appreciate, like I said, just the knowledge today, especially around an area that I think there's probably a lot of misinformation. So we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. Happy to be a part of this.
All right. And for everyone listening, thank you for tuning in again. Again, we always look forward to sharing, like I said, either like today, great things that just help us to elevate our knowledge around things in our industry or elevate ourselves as leaders and team members. So with that, until next time, have a great day and we'll talk at you soon.